Hello, this is Matt Slick from the Matt Slick Live podcast, where I defend the Christian faith and lay out our foundations of the truth of God's Word. Your chosen Truth Network podcast is starting in just a few seconds. Enjoy it, share it, but most of all, thank you for listening and for choosing the Truth Podcast Network.
This is the Truth Network.
The heart of every man craves a great adventure, but life doesn't usually feel that way. Jesus speaks of narrow gates and wide roads, but the masculine journey is filled with many twists and turns. So how do we keep from losing heart while trying to find the good way when life feels more like a losing battle than something worth dying for? Grab your gear and come on a quest with your band of brothers who will serve as the guides in what we call the masculine journey. The masculine journey starts here now.
Welcome to Masculine Journey. You about heard us praying. Not that would be a bad thing, but
we're at prayer meeting.
Jim's been gone for a few weeks. I'm like, hey Jim, will you pray? And man, I thought he just kept going. It was like the Energizer prayer.
I bet I don't get asked to pray anymore.
It'll be a minute. Yeah, no, I mean it was a great prayer. It was just a prayer. I mean it was a good one. But yeah, so he ended just as the music.
Expect a good show.
Yeah, just as music started, he ended. So that was good. So thank you for praying for us, Jim. And so, hey, it seems weird that, we have, not near as I can count, 8 people in the room, and it feels light. Mm-hmm. Like we don't have very many people, which is just crazy when you have 8 in the room. And, we're missing, of course, Harold, which will be gone for a few weeks. And so we wish him the best and gets back to us quickly. And Michael's gone, and he'll be back next week. And just
Art's lost.
Oh, yeah. Where art thou?
Come on,
Robbie, that's right. Yeah.
Come on, Robbie.
Yeah, that's your saying there. And man, just the list goes on. Kenny. And,
yeah,
just a lot of them. We miss seeing him.
Sure.
But then Danny's still here.
I'm here.
Danny's over there.
It's hard to miss you if you don't leave. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, yeah. Absence I ain't even sure absence would make the heart grow fonder. You know what I mean?
Yeah. When I was married, my in-laws would come and stay for like 6 weeks, and so at some point I go, it's kind of hard to miss you if you don't leave.
Is it absence or abstinence? I've never been sure.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. Well, I guess depends on who's. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah, Andy? No, never mind.
Oh. I should go somewhere.
Yeah. Well, Andy, you have the topic for this week's show, so you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, it's probably about a year ago. I was driving and song Dreamweaver came on. Hadn't heard it a lot. I mean, in the last 20 years, I guess.
Yeah, a couple decades. Yeah.
And I'm sure I had, but it just brought back, and I started thinking just about how dreams affect us. And, we have 2 kinds of dreams. I think there's probably more. There's a lot of different ways God conveys his message to us through dreams, visions, even trances, like in the book of Acts. But most of the time, in our vernacular, we usually think a dream is something like a goal, not a goal, something that's in our heart that God puts there. Sometimes it's not what God puts there, but something that we desire and that is for the future, and you've got a glimpse of it in your heart, but you haven't seen it come to pass yet. Is one example.
So long-term dream.
Long-term dream, right? And you can have, I have to feel like, these dreams at night that may support that or may not. Joseph was an example of his dream of the sheaves bowing down to him, and then all that transpired. And, you just have to wonder what was going on in Joseph's mind during that time. And then he delivered his whole family, and they truly did bow down to him. But all that, God knew what was going on. Joseph kind of probably did, but not really to the degree it all turned out. But that's what we're talking about here, is how God puts those things in our heart and how they transpire. And a lot of them are tied to our giftings and our desires and all that stuff. But I think this is the kind of thing that motivates us and keeps us alive and gives us a heart to move forward in life and expect something good out of it.
Yeah, it would have been hard for Joseph to maintain that vision of the dream when he's in the pit.
Right, yeah.
Or when he's cast into jail.
His buddies don't bail him out like they said that, or tell the Pharaoh or whatever.
Things just keep happening
Potiphar
to
it is,
Potiphar's wife, and all that stuff that keeps happening. It'd be easy to lose sight of that dream, and so that you have the long-term dream, and then what was the other one?
More just what we get overnight a lot of times, but it could also be, vision. It could be something short term, I guess, of, hey, this is going to happen that God places in your heart. But all those things I think that God communicates to us through our heart of what we're to expect in life.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I'd want to point out that a lot of times we treat our dreams, taking nightmares off the table, right?
We don't.
The enemy is over those nightmares for the most part, right? And trying to disrupt your sleep and things like that. We're not going to really talk about that in this show. But, even the dreams that seem frivolous, right? Don't just discount them. If you remembered them, which most people have trouble remembering the dreams, if you remembered them, just like anything else, ask God, was there something in there that you wanted me to get?
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Because sometimes there's things in those frivolous dreams that seem very silly, but really have a deeper meaning when you want to dig deep in them. And we'll hear that on a couple of clips.
we don't bother to delve into them. We're too sophisticated or too lazy or whatever, but I think there is a lot there to it. God's given me a couple of those teaching moments through that. What I also think, before we jump in here too, is what happens to me overnight when I quiet myself and I wake up. A lot of times it may not be a dream, but I seem to always have a word or something, a truth that I normally wouldn't have thought of. And I think that's our spirit within us that God drops that in there, and it gives us some wisdom for upcoming situation or a different idea about what's going on in life. So
it's good. Yep. It's good. So interested to see what God does with the show.
Sure.
I had a dream of. No, I didn't. We'll go ahead and move on. Danny, you have the first clip of the show. Wow, welcome back to the first clip.
Yeah, and I recycled this one.
Well,
so that's really
go.
cool. So I knew it was a good clip because it had been played before.
Yeah.
So it's from Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner, and he has this dream of this turning his cornfield into this baseball field, and these older players show up like ghosts, I guess.
Yeah, players from the past.
Players from the past. And him and his daughter, I said son in the pre-show.
Yeah.
And you didn't correct me.
I was going
scary,
to.
So
I was going to on the regular show.
I really wanted to bad.
Yeah.
I Googled it. I'm not stupid. No. So, but this scene is where, all the players are out there, 8 of them are out there, and he's invited people in to watch them and everything. And evidently only him and his daughter can see him.
And his wife.
Can see him. And so he's getting ridiculed and all about what's going on. But it's his dream and his vision, and we can talk about it on the backside.
All right, here we go.
Ray, honey, Mom and everybody's leaving now.
Well, it was, thanks for coming.
Ray, think about what I said. I'm just trying to help.
I know.
So I thought you two were going to watch some game.
Guess it's not really a game, it's more like a practice. See, there's only 8 of them, so they can't play a real game.
8 of what?
Them.
Who them?
Them. Well, you don't see them?
Karen, honey? What are you watching?
The baseball man.
Baseball? Do you see the baseball man right now?
Of course I do.
But you really don't see him?
I don't think it's very polite to try to make other people feel stupid.
Mom, wait a minute. Mom, wait a minute. Dee, wait. You don't see these people?
It's not funny, Annie.
They couldn't see it.
This is really interesting.
Yeah, Scripture, all through Scripture, it talks about dreams and visions, and we had talked about some of that. But, sometimes you are allowed to see stuff, a vision of a ministry or something. And, I thought about a couple of different things, when we started ministry in Asheboro and we transitioned into making a transition house. And I could see the vision. And luckily there were people who come along beside me who could see parts of it, I think. But, there was ridicule in it, and because you're casting something that people don't really understand. And that's kind of what I got out of that clip. And when you brought this topic up, because, and Sam, I'm sure you guys did the same thing when you started this ministry. You could see something, but, how's it going to plan out? Because sometimes I don't think it's the vision that scares us as bad as the process does.
Right.
And so that's the deal. And, God allows you to see, and y'all were talking earlier about the little nuggets that he drops. And I was describing to a guy last night, he's just starting a journey with Christ. And I said, I call them fireflies. You see fireflies all along the journey, some bigger, some, but you'll get them and hold on to those nuggets of what God gives you, because that'll be what takes you on to the next level.
Yeah, and you mentioned about the ministry. And Jim, you were there in the initial conversations we were having it. It was always about doing boot camps. There was nowhere along the way we thought about doing a radio show or podcast, and then all of a sudden our friend Robbie, suggested that we set in one week, and that became a big part of the ministry that we do every week, and unites the team, which is really cool. And so God gave us a big dream, but he had a even bigger dream in mind, and because we're obedient and following in one, he opened the door to the other. And I think that's a lot of times we can't see what those next steps are, right? But he may have a lot of different paths that he adds on to that dream that you weren't even aware of, if you're just obedient and you step out and you walk with him.
Well, I think if he showed you the whole blueprint and the whole plan, you'd run anyway.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty sure I would.
But usually they're not just one thing either, and that's the beauty of it is these, the boot camps and the radio show, they go like hand in glove. And so he's got a bigger vision than just one aspect.
I was thinking more like Mitten, but yeah, that works.
Well, I'm sorry.
And like Danny said, we sometimes want the whole picture, and if we get it, we'll screw it up.
Oh, yeah.
God wants us to take each step of faith one at a time. When we were called to Alaska, we had all these visions of what we were supposed to do when we get there, and we thought we were going forever. We weren't going forever, and what we planned had nothing to do with what God had planned for us.
Right, but what he had planned was better.
Yes.
Right, in the long run. Go ahead, Grant.
One person to another.
Yeah. We talked a little bit earlier about...
Hopefully the Lord in between.
Yeah, exactly. We talked about Joseph earlier. Had Joseph seen the whole plan of every step along the way, I don't know that he would have been signed up for it. Mm-hmm. And that's part of the problem. Or David even, David was told very clearly that, you're going to be king. Right? If he knew all the steps he had to get there.
All the loneliness and
the
caves and
all the persecution, all the things that he faced. Yeah. Go to masculinejourney.org. We have a boot camp coming up November 21st through 24th. You can go register. If you need help financially, please let us know. We'll find a way to get you there. We'll talk to you after the break.
What we have at our boot camp is something that makes you stronger and gives you the strength to go on your regular walk with God. It's something that will make you be bigger than you were when you got there.
The first one, I had no clue what I was walking into, and then realizing that other people are in the same boat and, how open everybody was to share their struggle. It was a great group, and a lot of unpacking was able to be done.
It is a tight bond of men. Everybody's the same. And each and every time that I've come to boot camp, I've learned something different. And not one man that's ever been there neglects not to take time out to talk or to share. It's serious business, and you need to come one time to break bread with the men and fellowship, feel the atmosphere, hear the people pray, and get down to earth about what's going on in life and get real.
Register today at masculinejourney.org.
I believe you can get me through the night. Ooh, dream weaver, I believe we can reach the morning light.
So yeah, that was Dream Weaver by Gary Wright. And, as I look at those lyrics, when I picked that today, you could take that as just overnight dream. God kind of gets us through the night. Mm-hmm. But when you look at it, in Scripture, the night is always considered like darkness, and this is a tough time. And his dreams, get us through. The dream weaver gets us through those difficult times to the morning light, to victory. So, yeah. I'm kind of dense. Y'all probably saw that right away, but anyway.
And welcome back to Masculine Journey. We're glad that you're back with us.
I'll be condescending to myself.
I just want to have fun with you, Andy. You know how that is. Robbie, you actually have the next clip. If you want to tell us a little bit about that or a lot about it, whatever you want to do.
Well, I can't help it. It's just when he brought up this topic, I went back to my journals because, you don't remember dreams all that well. And I just, did a search because my journal's electronic these days. I did a search under dreams, and I came across in November of 2022, right, which wasn't that long ago, I had this reoccurring dream of receiving a crown of thorns. And I was having it, and you could see in my journals where I was trying to determine, what in the world did that mean? And when I saw the answer, I was like, man, how cool is that? And how could I forget this? But what it was is that in November of 2022, I was finishing up a very long study on the Song of Solomon. I'd actually memorized the book, and I was trying to analyze all these verses in the 7th, 8th chapter. And the 7th chapter is a pretty famous verse. You hear it quoted quite often where, it's after the marriage night in the Song of Solomon, and, they're certainly consummating their marriage multiple times here. And at this point in time, he says, I'm going to come up to the palm tree, and I'm going to take hold of what is often translated boughs, or sometimes it's translated fruit. However, when I began to study that word, as I was, studying the whole thing, it became obvious that what he grabbed hold of were thorns. And it just grabbed my attention immediately. I was like, what? He took a hold of thorns, and I went immediately and Googled, because it was a date palm, very specifically kind of palm that wasn't Hebrew. And I said, do date palms have thorns? And no, sure enough, they do. And they're quite wicked thorns. In fact, there's poison in those thorns that rots your bones. If you happen to get one of those horrible thorns, it's pretty, when you see it, it's like, oh my goodness. And then all of a sudden I began to think about, oh my goodness, he is rejoicing in the love that he has for his bride at this point in time, but he is taking a hold of her thorn. In other words, those are the nails. And they are all kind of bitter poison for his, physical life that would be. And I thought about what would that be like to really take hold of your own death in order to save your bride. And, it just led me to a place of worship that was unbelievable, that he truly does, in fact, take that all on himself and in such a way that he loved doing it. Because as you read the verses after that, and as I recall, it's like the 6th or 7th verse in the 7th chapter, you're going to see that this is this big moment as they're heading off into the sunset of their marriage. And so I remembered this movie clip from the movie Fury, which these guys are facing imminent death. And essentially there's a young guy who's just been trained in the tank. These other guys have been in this tank for years and really had some tough times together. But right now they're facing like a whole battalion of Germans. The radio's out. It's just them against unbelievable odds. And they realize that they're going to die, but they are going to hold this position because it was their thing. It was their orders is what they were to do. And so what we pick up here is we'll hear the scene where the tank commander is talking about getting lit. And by that means, they're fixing to, he says, we might as well do this. And then, as they're facing this, you'll hear different people, make comments. But then I don't want you to miss, as they are going through this moment that they really have together right before the battle of the new guy, they give him his war name, right? And how cool is it that God gives us his name, his name as our marriage will be consummated, right, in the book of Revelation. But also we can have it through boot camps, as we talk about quite often. But as you listen to this clip, you can hear at the end of it, they say, best job I ever had. In other words, they are doing it, but they are doing it with
wholeheartedness.
Yeah, wholeheartedness and some type of joy that's involved in really being able to give your life for your country.
Might as well get a little tight. Won't be around for the hangover.
Here.
What you gonna do with that?
I'm gonna drink it. I know you had me preach. I know it. What we're doing here is a righteous act, gentlemen. You hear me, Gordo?
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a Bible verse I think about sometimes. Many times. It goes, then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send? And who will go for us? And I said, here am I. Send me.
Book of Isaiah, chapter 6.
Exactly right. Wow. You're something.
Frank Machine, ain't you? Machine, that's it. That's his war name.
That's perfect.
I christened the Machine. I love it in here. I do. Best job I ever had.
Yeah, and when you think about, from my standpoint, all the heroes, that made up this country, or, fought for our freedom, or fought for the church's freedom, or certainly all the disciples and all those people had that moment of really laying down their life. And interestingly, to whatever extent, we all do.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's just a beautiful thing. And and it came to me through a dream that certainly as I recalled it all, it's really remarkable to me.
Well, as you were describing that, I mean, I've heard that passage several times. John quotes it a different way, right?
Right,
But
sure.
as you talked about those thorns, just the image of Jesus on the cross, for me, of, he took on all of our thorns. That we may have the freedom, and you're alluding to that, I guess, but for me, it was just made it more clear that I'll never hear that passage again and think of anything different than Jesus taking that on, right? That he loved his bride, us, so much that he would take that on at the ultimate cost for him. And so that was really cool, Robbie. I appreciate you sharing that. And so I want to encourage you to pay attention to those dreams. Right. Jim, you want to say something?
Well, I was going to sort of say what you did. It's not too often that I learn something that is as different as night and day from what I assumed, and I appreciate that too. And it makes that mean so more than grabbing fruit.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking about it ever since you brought it up.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Robbie. I'm going to get one more clip in. We've got enough time. And so I'm just going to play this, and then we'll talk about it as we head out.
Dream on,
That was Aerosmith, obviously, with Dream On. And that's the encouragement to continue to dream. If you find yourself right now in a situation like Joseph was, you find yourself in a pit, realize God has another dream bigger than that. Your dream isn't the pit, right? Or if you find yourself incarcerated in one way or another, either physically, emotionally, know that that's not God's dream for you. He has something so much bigger. And continue to dream on. And so whenever you hear that song, and they play it still a lot, it's a classic rock that's been around forever, I want to encourage you to think about that, and also think about those dreams that you could chalk off as frivolous that we talked about earlier. Robbie's dream of having a crown of thorns. Just go, oh, that was weird. Maybe I ate something. I had Taco Bell last night, whatever that might have been. Not to discount it, but to say, okay, is there more to it than that? Because not only did it have a great impact on him, but him sharing it tonight had at least an impact on Jim and I, and I'm sure some of the others here, and hopefully some of you, that you'll never see that passage the same way again, right? That just continue to push and to dream on and to keep pushing through. And then what I wanted to ask about before we head out of this segment is, how do you hold on to those dreams, right? So just what's some key tips to holding on to the things you dream about? Because I'll dream about it and then I don't remember it the next day. So what do you guys do to hold on? Robbie, you have a dream book.
I have a journal, right?
Yeah.
And it's, first thing in the morning. And so if I got something and I go, wow, that's weird, that's generally, I'm going to go write it down. And that's what it is.
Right. And so write it down, hold on to it, go back and look at it. It may be like me, I'll write something down, and if I don't go back and look at it, my notes are kind of pointless, right? I remember one time, and I'll say it real quick, I was really struggling, and so I took a day and I went up and spent some time on the mountain, and literally went up the top of the mountain and hiked, and I'm praying to God about a situation. He gave me some words, and so I opened up my journal, and literally where I flipped open to, it was the same words He gave me 2 years before that I hadn't listened to, right? So listen to those things and ask God and seek His heart and ask what He has for you there, because I promise you, His dreams for you will blow your mind. He's got some amazing things planned. Go to masculinejourney.org to register for the upcoming boot camp, November 21st through 24th. And as always, love somebody well this week. We'll talk to you next week.
This is the Truth Network.